First of all, thank you everyone for coming and being here this morning, especially as I'm sure your stomachs are rumbling a little bit. How timely that the session that we're coming into right now follows the one on AI, because what we're going to be talking about today is technologies that can drive and enable innovation. Um, the topic today is really called the Great Canadian Catch-Up, and we'll touch on that in just a moment. Before, I'll just want to introduce myself. My name is Yasser Jiwan. I'm with Monitor Deloitte, where my focus really is on open banking enablement and the ecosystem. It's my pleasure to be joined on the stage here with three esteemed panelists, starting with Diedrich Van Leer, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Wealthsimple. Next to him is Sean McCarthy from AWS. And finally, Parja Senhao came all the way from the Bay Area from FIS. So just to keep things moving really quickly, I guess the first question I would ask is the topic, the title of the session really was called Great Canadian Catch-Up. And we're talking about technology. So, Diedrich, a question for you. Do you think we really are behind the innovation curve here when it comes to technology in financial services?
Hi, good morning, everyone. To jump into your question, yes, I
okay, that was pretty straightforward.
So. And the reason why I say that, so I do have an accent, I'm Dutch, and so the first part of my life I lived in Holland, and the second part I lived in Canada, and so I'm like this digital nomad, 1 foot in Europe, 1 foot in Canada, and so I have the advantage point of being able to compare things a little bit. And so, give you one small anecdote. I remember how I believe it was 1989, in Holland we phased out checks. They were just phased out. And so when I came here in 2008, I had to learn how to use them. But now, 2024, they are still a thing, right? And so that's just one small example, right? Of
150 million were cleared last year.
Right? And so I think if you compare yourself to other countries in Europe, in Middle East, in Asia, I think there is things like real-time banking, open banking are just much further ahead. So yes, to your question, I do feel we are lagging behind.
Thank you for that. And here I was as a layperson thinking, hey, guess what? We were, North America were the first with chip cards, etc. But you just put me to shame. So thank you. So let's just move right along then into talking about the technologies that can enable innovation in financial services. And everybody's talking about, we just heard it previously as well about movement to cloud. So, Sean, perfect that you were there from AWS. So, it's just some thoughts on how cloud technology can enable innovation.
Sure, thanks, Yasser, and good morning, everybody. When I talk to a lot of customers, it's often not why move to cloud. It's really how can I move to cloud and how can I move to cloud faster. And so when I think about a couple of the areas where customers gain a lot of benefit from moving to the cloud, it comes down to kind of 4 key areas, particularly from a financial services lens. So I work with our financial services customers across the Canadian business. And that really comes down to kind of four areas. So increasing efficiency and agility, accelerating innovation and speed to market, really delivering frictionless and personalized customer experiences, and finally security and compliance at scale. And so if I dive into each of those, just to give you a little bit more context around what each of those means. Improving and increasing efficiency and agility. So if you think about managing data centers and things like that, that's not a core competency that financial services customers really need to have. And so leveraging cloud technologies allows you to focus on what makes your business different. And so allows speed to market, allows your ability to move faster to support and help your customers. The second piece around accelerating sort of innovation and time to market. So experimentation with the cloud. If you think back to, pre-cloud technologies, you would need to spin up a data center and things like that, and it's costly and it takes time. Now you can test and learn quite quickly, spin up some different instances, and if it's not, proving out what you anticipated, then you can easily bring those down. And so moving from proof of concept to production at a very quick and rapid pace is a real benefit. And then thirdly, what I mean by frictionless and sort of personalized customer experience, we've all had the experience of, say, shopping on Amazon, right? And you've got recommendations of things that you've bought like others, or others have bought similar to some of your purchase history. So personalizing for the individual is something utilizing analytics and machine learning that's available through services on AWS enables customers to be able to do that. And the friction part of it is financial services really continues to be a fairly heavy paper-based system. I mean, you may mention of checks, which are still very much in existence. So digitizing a lot of that material through various different services to make it digital allows you to move fast. And then lastly, security and compliance at scale, right? At AWS, we really believe security is the top priority. And resiliency and scale is really critical as customers continue to grow and market volatility and so many different factors. And so that really kind of are core benefits that we see for financial services customers. But again, more customers are asking, how do we move faster in those different spaces than, why move to the cloud?
Thank you. Parja, anything to add from your side?
I think, you guys covered most of it. Just for my background, I've been in the payments and banks area, and I've been part of high tech as well. So I've been at Meta and Uber, and then back to banking. So I've seen both sides of the world. And one key difference that you see that has emerged in the Silicon Valley in the last few years is people have moved beyond the aspect of just CX. You can only do so much to continue to reduce clicks. You have to go a lot beyond that. And I think that's what you see the vibe of that and all the talks that you've heard. You're going a layer below and you're talking about really capabilities that help you power that CX. That's where all the algorithms come in. That's where the AI comes in. That's where search comes in. That's where targeting comes in. That's where you start to think of really services. And that's the focus that I think Silicon Valley has shifted towards for a while now. And I think, and that's where you see a lot of innovation happening. And it's important that the financial services industry takes advantage of that as well as go forward.
Thank you for that. And I think just if you could just go a little bit further, think about services that FIS has enabled. Like here we are in financial services. Any examples that you think you could share with the group around what you have seen with some of your clients enabling in market?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. One of the things, like in the banking services, we have talked for a long time is about open banking, right? And we talk about open banking, we go only so far, and you step back and say, like, what is something that can really trigger this, that can make this happen? In the US, and hopefully happens in Canada fairly soon as well, we are looking forward to having a regulation coming from CFPB called 1033, which basically will force the banks, will basically mandate the banks to open up their APIs. So rather than you look at some of the aggregators that screen scrape your APIs to provide data to other parties, they will be asked to open their APIs. Now, once you open up the APIs, you're suddenly opening up all the consumer data for parties to innovate on. So that is something that's coming very soon. And what FIS has done, we have built a product that actually is able to, for all our core banks, which is 1,000 plus banks in the US and many banks in Canada as well, we have created a technology that helps you open your APIs through and offer customer data to any provider that you can do. The other real key nuance, we talk about technology.
Maybe just keep it closer.
Is it better now? Okay, apologies. So, and I think the second key thing, we talk about technology all the time, but one of the key things that we have to understand when think of technology is privacy. And that's another really key thing that we are introducing in our product. So we'll have consent for the user, and we'll aggregate consent for the user across all their accounts across different providers. So the user will be in complete control on a provider that has access to the API through which their data is shared, and it will be done only based on their consent. This is a product that is going to be live in Q3 and Q4, and we have a number of parties that we're working in the US to bring it to the market. We really believe that it's going to be a significant game changer because suddenly you have users certified with their consent, high quality data that people can build apps and services on.
Truly a game changer. And I think what I'm hearing is, I mean, in conversations I've been in with open banking, a lot of discussions been around opening up the APIs. It's been around how do you monetize the data that comes through. But the key point is the gateway that you just talked about, which is consent and specifically consent aggregation aligned to use cases. So it's fantastic to hear that you're building out a solution on that. Sean, from your side, any other thoughts about examples where you've seen tech enabling innovative services in financial institutions, specifically AWS cloud?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's a lot of different capabilities. If you think about the different services that AWS brings to bear, north of 200 services that are available for customers to take advantage of. And so what we really pride ourselves on is working backwards from the use case that customers have, and then figuring out what the right services are in order to achieve that. And so, I mean, there's lots of different examples, both in Canada. I mean, customers like Wealthsimple using a number of innovative services that really drive a lot of value for customers and become differentiators. So, without going into all the different services, there's lots. If I talk about our generative AI stack, there's many different areas that we could cover. But there are capabilities that enable customers to help their customers in a much more innovative way. The last thing I'll say is, the title of our panel discussion is the Canadian catch-up, and I agree that there is room to grow in the Canadian market. But there are definitely pockets of customers that are really doing interesting and innovative things, and I think we're going to continue to see more and more of that as this sort of people, process, and technology. Technology is really just that enabler. But as we see more and more the way in which organizations work, I think we're really going to see a game changer in the Canadian marketplace. That's my optimistic view.
Thank you for the shout out.
Let's build on that. I think that's fantastic. And the fact that we are actually joined by you, Diedrich, in the room, bridging that European experience with Canadian reality. And also, being the chief tech officer at a highly innovative financial services institution, I think without there won't be any naysayers here to that statement. What I would like to ask you is, when you look at innovative products that have actually changed the life of everyday people like us when we engage with banking services, can you share a couple of those examples? And then what I'd like you to do is, talk a little bit about the technology that's helping you power those examples.
Sure, great question. And I actually think we should broaden the idea of innovation beyond just technology, because I think Wealthsimple innovates among different dimensions. So like a more tech-centric innovation has been our peer-to-peer, our real-time peer-to-peer sending money amongst Wealthsimple customers. But if you look at, for example, how we have been able to increase our deposit insurance, CIDC, that's actually more like a regulatory innovation, right? And if you look at our products in general, we believe we have to make them simple, right? And so making the products simple in a traditionally very complex industry is also a type of innovation, where we take away the barrier, the intimidation sometimes, the complexity, like, oh my God, am I making the right decision? Money, I believe, is for all of us a very emotional topic, right? It's very important. We all have dreams and maybe sometimes nightmares about it. We worry about the future. Am I making the right decisions today for my retirement, for my kids that want to go to college, for my next house that I would like to buy, right? These are real tough problems. And so we're trying to make people feel more empowered, that they are making the right decisions on those journeys. And so I think those are sort of the three dimensions in which we try to innovate. On your second question then, so like how do we actually use technology to build these kind of innovations? Well, we were a cloud native born company, and we've been working very close with Sean and AWS. And so I think one thing you didn't mention is actually like being able to go so fast is sort of exhilarating, and it becomes like part of your DNA. This idea of making things better and simpler and faster is core to who we are, and then technology becomes like this means to enable that. And so we are using using the data warehousing capabilities to just make better decisions and to decide where to innovate. We're using the elastic scalability capabilities to quickly respond to changing market circumstances. As you might know, Roaring Kitty is back. For those who don't know, the internet is a wonderful resource, but right, and so like these unexpected events always happen in the marketplace, and so we are able to very quickly respond to that and scale up and scale down as is needed. So I think it's hard for me to single out a single technology because it's just so fully integrated in who we are and how we think.
Fantastic. And I think, I mean, one of the good things is in another 4 minutes we'll be out having lunch. So please, I'm sure if people have any questions, et cetera, they can come up to any one of you. I think just to kind of, like, I guess the closing question for us and Rob out there is when you think about, when you talked on security, when you think about all the microservices that are now being enabled, what they are doing really is allowing data to be exposed and connected to third parties. So just, some thoughts around it. How do you manage the concern around security issues? Data is actually leaving your environment and going elsewhere. Parajat, why don't you take a stab at that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think what we have been able to do at FIS is we have a API gateway that is super secure. So we make sure that we are not only offering you all different kinds of services that a bank may need, all the way from, say, we are talking about open access, to be able to have digital account open, having payments as services, think of loyalty, think of risk. So we are offering an entire range of services. But when we do that, we make sure that it is done in a very secure manner. So you see, number one, we take care of authentication. We talked about facial biometrics and other things. All of that is enabled through our API gateway. You go to the next level, you say, do I have encryption? And I make sure the data is secure at rest and in transition. So we'll make sure that we take care of that as well. The next step is making sure that we have privacy taken care of and consent taken care of. So if you see different layers of security, that is what we make available through our API gateway across a range of services that you can pick and choose to build your experience. So having a secure, standard-based API gateway that you can pick your services from and in a self-serve manner build your entire experience is super powerful. And FIS is super focused on growing that.
Thank you. And Sean, anything to add to that?
Yeah, maybe just a couple of quick comments around, I mentioned security is really the top priority at AWS. It's something that we pride ourselves on, and we've got security and compliance specialists that are focused on working with customers to ensure that they operate in the cloud in a secure and compliant manner. So there are a lot of resources that are available to customers that can help overcome some of those roadblocks. And the key comment that I would say, having worked in the industry for a number of years, if we rest on old assumptions of what is possible in the market, then we don't challenge ourselves to think in a different way. And there's a lot of different ways to solve problems. And so there is often that trepidation around, should I be moving some of this to the cloud? I would say make sure you're asking the right questions of your team, of your different stakeholders within the organization, because there's a lot of capabilities and sometimes assumptions of older thinking that can be really challenged with modern technologies that'll allow customers to move really fast. So,
thank you. And any closing thoughts on that statement, Dietrich?
No, I fully agree. It is hard sometimes to leave behind older kind of thinking, right? It's because you're entering a new world with unknowns, and I find it personally super exciting. But there's also tough questions like, how can this go wrong? The risk questions. And so people have to get assurance and get comfortable. And I think it's really important that you keep experimenting and creating a culture in your organization that this is trying, innovate, prototype. You don't need to go to market immediately. Like, get comfortable. This is particularly, I think, important right now with Gen AI. Like, it's an incredibly powerful new technology that is, I think, going to be transformational, actually. But it's only day one. And so it's pretty important just to start working with it internally first and get comfortable, and then you can leave behind some old assumptions. But let's all innovate, because I think there's really I was reading. Sorry, if I have 1 minute.
Of course.
So,
go for it.
Canada is like this amazing country, like truly amazing. Like I came, as I mentioned, in 2008, and then I feel like it has so much more potential. And so some of the, if you look at some of the benchmarks, then we're just not great. I mean, we're good, we're not great,
But we're
right?
not challenging ourselves.
Like if you saw, like the OECD does these really comprehensive comparisons between countries, and Canada is like 15, like for years. Like it should be top 10, right? And I was doing some research, and actually, like back in 1991, the Canadian government issued a report about Canadian competitiveness in 1991 by Michael Porter, Canada at the Crossroads, and it was predicting that if it wouldn't become more innovative, that standard of living would go down. This is from 91. They did an update on the report in 2001, and things hadn't gotten better. And so I think we have to really embrace technologies and make it more part of our DNA. Innovate, because we need to do it. We have no choice, because other countries are not sitting idle. They are not.
That's on that note. I think I'll just wrap up. If I were to say one statement that captures what was just said in the last 25 minutes, is simply this: that the technology is honestly just an enabler and allows you to basically go into a safe lab room, right? And you have these abilities to be scalable, to be able to pivot, etc., in a pretty well secure environment. But then the question comes to everybody here in the room, the dev folks, the CTOs, and of course, people in finance and legal that are basically going to be reviewing all the cases that are coming forward. You've got a challenge that you heard on the stage, and the question is challenge accepted? So with that, mull that over, enjoy your meal. Thank you again very much for a fantastic time.
Thank you.